Good morning, everybody. You're tuned into Cragcore. Thank you for tuning in today. So, today is the 24th, I believe, yes. Oh no, Thursday the 23rd. I'm getting ahead of myself. Thursday the 23rd of February 2023. So, well, there we go. It's 23/2/23. So today I'm going to be talking about my opinions on reincarnation. I think it's a very interesting subject, like past lives and stuff. Personally, I think it's more important to us in our lives that we're in now, or in fact every life that we may have lived, should this be the case, than what we actually give it credit for. I mean, if you imagine that energy is infinite, people say energy is borrowed and it has to go back. It can't be destroyed. It is what it is, you know. Energy is all things. Your soul is infinite energy. That's what they say. So, for the benefit of this video, I guess what I'll do is I'll talk about it as though, you know, from the perspective that that's the case, you know, to save me having to keep saying things like, you know, for argument's sake and stuff like that, because that could get annoying. So, the soul is infinite. It's infinite energy. It's connected to everything that ever is, was, and ever will be. There's levels of existence that we can't even comprehend within our physical sense because we identify with our physical self in such a way that it blocks out other aspects. We simply don't comprehend these things because we've not got the perspective to do so. So, I mean, let's just take a step back. Just imagine what it would mean to your life right now if you simply knew, or believed at the very least, that you'd had another life before this. Well, if you've had just the one, let alone all of the hundreds and thousands that people claim to have had, if you've just had one previous life, well, then that means that your soul doesn't die, right? It means that your soul lives on. So that means that actually you can live this life to its fullest potential, because actually, you know, when you're fed this bullshittery that when you die it's forever and you have to fear death and all of this kind of stuff, you know, then if you get past that, then ultimately you can then go on to live your life with a sense of ease, I guess. A sense of childlike wonder, an exploration, you know. I think there's something to it. Now, ultimately, there is a serious aspect. It starts to draw in other aspects of our, I suppose, paradigm is the right word, because we have been living in a certain type of way of thought for a long time. And ultimately people throw around comments, don't they, like, oh, well, in a past life, you know, and stuff like that. I'll see you in the next life. You know, people actually throw away these comments and they don't actually understand the gravity behind them. But, you know, we've been living in a certain paradigm for such a long time that brings in things like karma, the wheel of karma. Now look, it's another thing that people say that is the truth. And again, another comment that people like to throw around. Oh, that karma's a bitch. You know, oh, let karma do the work for you. Like, we say these things on a daily basis probably and don't really understand. You know, they're throwaway, aren't they? The actual gravity of what it is we're saying and what it could mean. Because if you accept these things, in that instant, your life changes. Your perception changes. The way that you think about yourself and life in general changes. It becomes an experience, desperate to be had, as opposed to a drag. And then you can go on and do other things in life. But if you understand then, let's just say that karma is actually, you know, this divine force of balance whose thirst must be quenched and will only be so quenched when balance has been achieved. Well, is it not then important that you understand the levels of karma to which you are beholden and therefore need to balance out? Because I would say so, personally. And if you're carrying in heavy amounts of soul trauma, i.e. karma, from another life, well, then you kind of need to know about it, bro. You know? So then in this life, you can work on clearing that karma, that karmic debt that you owe to the balance of all things. And then get on with things, get on with life. Perhaps that's where ascension comes in. You know, the ascension of the soul after that fact. Like, I don't know, man. Another thing, oh, you know, the good die young. That's what they say. Really? I thought death was a bad thing. Surely the bad would die young then, because it's come to get you sooner than what you wanted, right? So what's going on there with that comment? The good die young. Well, maybe they're so good that they paid off their karmic debt early. They had less of a karmic debt. Therefore, death is what allows the soul to ascend, all right? Is that what that statement means? You tell me. Because people throw around these comments, you know, and they don't even actually fucking understand what they're on about, clearly. Because if they did, then they'd be living their lives differently. Because if you truly believe that the good die young, well, then what's the reason behind that? They're so good that they died. Surely then you'd have to then start bringing into question the law of karma and soul trauma and the debt balance and all of this. Surely you'd have to say something along those lines, right? So again, is it not very important for us to understand and recognize what it is we need to do in this life? Now, a lot of the time, in fact, in every single person on this planet right now, I dare say there is, Christ, if there's a fraction, it's an extremely small, minuscule fraction of people that are actually, and I'm talking about people that are probably far away in the middle of nowhere that still have natural processes. Would a plural process be proces? I don't know. You tell me. But natural processes of upbringing of their own personal growth and evolution. Perhaps if this is knowledge based in truth, right, like we're all kind of coming back again, the very notion of someone being born simply means they've come back to work through a karmic debt, right? Otherwise, that soul wouldn't be born back into this physical prison, all right? If that's the way that you look at this. So ultimately, somebody being born is coming back to pay a debt for the karmic balance. Now, at that point, is it not our responsibility to that person, that soul, to try and educate that soul on what it is they're here to do, so that they can rid themselves of this karmic debt? Surely that would be the responsible thing to do, the loving and caring thing to do at that point. But I guess at first, what you'd have to acknowledge is that it's actually a thing in the first place. Because if you don't acknowledge that it's a thing in the first place, then you're not even gonna try, are you? You're not gonna do that. I personally can say from experience, past life regressions can be extremely valuable tools in moving forward in this life, spiritually. You know, like I had a past life regression by accident, actually. And it actually gave me a deeper understanding of my life now. And it rid me of an awful lot of karmic debt. I realised, to some degree, part of the reasons as to why I was acting and reacting in some of the ways I was doing so. And it allowed me to free myself of that, because let's face it, understanding is halfway there. If you can understand your reasons for acting a certain way or feeling a certain way about certain situations and scenarios, well, then ultimately you're halfway there to rectifying that process, if that's something that you feel like you want to do. If you're currently unhappy with those reactions and actions and emotions and stuff, those emotional responses. Because a lot of the time we find ourselves in these behavioural loop patterns, don't we? And we don't know why. People go, oh, it's just who I am. Maybe it's who you were. Maybe that's more the answer to that one. Maybe it's who you were and you're still trying to work through it. And until you can understand that that's the reason behind those emotional responses and stuff, you're never going to get past it and be able to live this life to its fullest. You know, maybe there is an inbuilt system within this reality that tries to get you to remember because you haven't been reminded by those who are meant to remind you. Like, let's not forget that back in the days, you know, there would have been a shaman or a wise one, or many of these people, for that fact, in every single, at least, group of people, or maybe even in somebody's family. You know, I mean, you look at these tribes that still survive from ancient times, that are still living their own way from back in the days, that have that have only recently been discovered by modern people, and they still have these ways of life. So it goes to show that it's a part of life, having these wise elders there. So simply, we haven't been reminded of this. Can you imagine the gravity of what that means? Let's just say, for instance, you have a baby, okay? And for the first 5 to 7 years of its life, or soon after that, perhaps up to the age of 10, you work with that child on a spiritual level, trying to unlock their previous lives and existences, so you can remind them of who they have been and what it is they're actually here to do, to rid themselves of that debt. If you could do that within the first couple of decades of your life, if you could understand those things and therefore not repeat those behavioral patterns based on a emotional response generated by some soul trauma from the past, well, then you would go on to live this life very differently, and you wouldn't keep repeating the same cycles now, because you'd have already had the opportunity to put them to rest, to say, oh, okay, that's why I feel like that, so I won't do that now. Thank you for that. Understanding again is halfway there. Which is why I truly believe that these character traits that people have, it's part of this system. That, for instance, if you're in it's part of this system that tries to remind you, to get you to kind of rid yourself of that. If you're in a situation that you seem like it just keeps repeating time and time again, well, then do what is required to stop that cycle repeating and see how life changes. But personally, I don't think that that's enough. I think that that's half of it. I think that's half of it, and understanding the reasons why you need to is the other half. And once those two halves are together, you've got the whole picture and you can move past it. And like I said, I know this through personal experience of having my accidental regression that time. And I tell you what, without my friend who interpreted what it was I experienced, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I owe that man a great debt. Because from that moment, I was able to then start working through a process of changing my behaviors. I was given an opportunity at that point, backed by the knowledge, to make different choices for valid reasons, given the opportunities that arose in my present life. And this is why I think that the past life regression is, personally, to me, a very important part of our development in our current life. Because you need to have that understanding as to why these changes need to happen. Because anybody can tell you, any doctor or anything. Think about it. How many times do you go and ask somebody for help? How many times are you actually asking to be told what to do, or hoping to be told what to do? Give me the cure, doc. How many people have gone to see a counsellor, and because that counsellor hasn't turned around and said, oh, yeah, this is your problem and this is what you need to, to rectify it, they've gone, oh, that counsellor's shit, it hasn't worked. Counselling doesn't work. As a matter of fact, counselling is another thing that comes from a very similar path, or chain of thought. Like, it's meant to unlock these things in yourself and give you that wisdom, that knowledge, so that then you can go and make different choices. You've got the opportunity to make different choices based upon the new knowledge that you have of yourself, which is what helps you turn your life around. Anybody can tell you what to do, but unless you can understand within yourself the reasons why you need to, well, then you're never really going to actually get the true healing benefits from the changes that you make. Even if you make said changes that need to be made, without the understanding as to why you're doing it, it probably won't have the same healing effect. Because now you're just doing as you're told, as opposed to doing as you know to be right, doing as you know, as you feel to be right. This is a very valuable part of who we are. If you've had many lives before, then surely knowing about them will give you a greater understanding as to what you're supposed to be doing in this life, so you can live a fulfilled life. Get rid of the emotional baggage, because half the time it's based on past experiences of what your soul has had to endure. It's a bit like raising someone to the age of 30, 40, 50, whatever, erasing their memory. It's like giving someone amnesia and saying, there you go. They don't know what to go and do for a job. They don't know what to fucking do with regards to how to even dress themselves. But their character traits will still be there. They won't understand why. They won't understand why, perhaps, they're fearful of certain things like dogs or whatever. Oh, because when they were 35, they were bitten savagely by a bloody Rottweiler or something, They don't know why, but they are. Well, it's because they've had their mind erased. But their thoughts are still there, their emotions are still there, the emotional response is still there because it's in their subconscious. So this is, you'd want to try and get your memory back, wouldn't you? So you could live a fulfilled life here, right now. So you can remember who you are. Well, a part of remembering who you are is remembering who you have been. I think it's very important, and I think that it's our duty to educate ourselves on this and to educate other people around us, and not to put people's heads in a box. For instance, what I mean by that is, if you've got a kid that's like saying things like, past lives and stuff, don't turn around and tell them that that's stupid and that's impossible. See where it goes, ask them questions, say, all right, okay. Who were you? What's your name? At the end of the day, you never know where it might lead. Because every single time this type of thing is shut down in an individual, it narrows their perspective of what is actually possible, and you're robbing them of living a fulfilled life, basically. And ultimately, even with adults too, I've been around people in the past, especially when I had this accidental regression, and they told me I was insane. I didn't let it get me down. Some people it would do, and it would stifle their path. Unfortunately, there are many people out there that can't wait to call you names and to ridicule you, simply because they're afraid themselves of what it means. For whatever reason, And that's a real shame, that is. That's a real shame. I hope that everybody alive, whether on this planet, other planets, whatever, I hope that every single living thing in existence has a realization of these things and is able to live a fulfilled and happy life and move through their journey of personal growth and enlightenment to the point where they are an ascended being themselves, because it's what we're here for. And it's been robbed from you, it's been taken from you. The curriculum, the education system, everything is put in place to rob you and to steal from you your ability to live a happy and fulfilled life. And it's so sad. And it's all about control. Of course it is. Of course it is. And on that note, I'm going to cut this one short. I'm going to do another video on this, I think, part 2. And on that note, I'm going to wish love and peace to all things everywhere. I hope you all have a very good day. This is Craig Core, signing off. Peace.